Season's greetings, everybody. This is PogieJoe, and even though I have exams this week, the year is coming to a close, so I thought I'd take a few minutes out to tell you about some of my favorite music albums of the past year. I'll get to my top 10 in a minute, but I'm just going to run through some runner-ups real quick here. Revolution Radio by Green Day. I was not a fan of their last couple albums, but this most recent one brings back a lot of I think just relevance to a lot of their songs. It's much more politically impactful, emotionally impactful. The lead single Bang Bang is really cool. It's really energetic and catchy, and it's just a good album of pop punk. Big Fugitive Life by Ezra Furman. I'm definitely looking forward to their next long-form release. Heaven Adores You soundtrack by Elliott Smith, which is mostly a bunch of scraps and unreleased things that I've already heard. But anything, I'll take anything by Elliott Smith. I love Elliott Smith. Rest in peace. Wonderful Crazy Night by Elton John, a surprising throwback to some of his best albums. The Late Show soundtrack by Jon Batiste, a fantastic jazz player. Haze by Natalie Dawn of Pamplemousse, exceptionally brilliant, moody album. Radius by Alan Stone, another fun one. Bottomless Pit by Death Grips. Phone Power by They Might Be Giants. Anti by Rihanna was also great. It did not make my top 10 because while I thought there were a lot of really, really good tracks, there was also a lot of mediocre tracks thrown in there too, but I love that she's playing around with new styles and new ideas. The Life of Pablo by Kanye West, bit of a disappointment, but I thought still had some good stuff on there. EP number 1 by an artist I found called Mint, which is pretty cool. Blank Face LP by Schoolboy Q. Blue and Lonesome by the Rolling Stones, which is a great throwback to the music they first started playing back in bars and clubs, which was the blues. Just super solid. Good Times by the Monkees. I didn't think I put the Monkees on this list. I mean, they disbanded a long time ago. Davy Jones, one of their lead singers, is dead. So the fact that they made an album using an old song that he performed on, but also a bunch of new songs written by people who were fans of the Monkees growing up. And finally, my final runner-up, You Want It Darker by Leonard Cohen. May he rest in peace. What a great last album. 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars. Yes, make fun of me all you want, but these songs are catchy as hell and they are so energizing. And Bruno Mars has just, I think, this exceptional talent to make these songs that are just so fun. Like they're so danceable, the lyrics are so dumb. Like, it's, like I said, goofy choice, but I love the album. What can I say? This is PogieJoe mug. I've had this for a while now, but they're also available on PogieJoe.com. That's all I'm saying. I also found a group this year at number 9, Weaves. Their rock songs have this cool, like, live sort of feel to them, even though they are, I think, very technically interesting. But the fact that they make you feel like it's live is, I think, an aspect that I really enjoyed about this album, which I would check out. At number 8, I have Hella Personal Film Festival by Open Mike Eagle. I think Open Mike Eagle is one of the most creative rappers out there today. His songs are so quirky and unique, and they tell such, interesting stories, and I love the samples that he chooses for the songs. I love how he just creates these albums that almost feel like you're going through an old curiosity shop. Number 7, Awaken My Love by Childish Gambino, which came out just last week. I'm really, really, really grateful that I got to hear this before I added it to the list, because this is a great album. I am so in love with the production on this. I'm so in love with the 70s vibe, but also the mixing with modern technology, because Childish Gambino, I don't know how this man does it, but somehow he can do everything. He can act, he can write, he can do comedy, he can rap, he can sing, and the fact that he went from making a great rap album to now making an incredible, like, soul rock and roll album is just again, another emblem of how creative and diverse his talents are. Blonde by Frank Ocean. Was it worth the wait? I think you have to be in the right mindset to listen to this album. It's not one that you're gonna, blast really loud while you're driving down a highway or anything like that. It's a much more introspective album. It's a much more personal album than I think what he did with Channel Orange. I think for some people that sort of introspective, more quiet, slow style can be very boring, such as what Drake did with Views this year. But with Frank Ocean, he knows how to make it work. Number 5, Untitled Unmastered by Kendrick Lamar. I love everything that Kendrick puts out pretty much, so this was no exception. I've heard some split reviews because it's essentially a lot of stuff that didn't make it on his last album, To Pimp a Butterfly, but I liked it a lot because of that, because the tracks were even weirder than what we saw on the other album. They were more experimental and free-flowing, it had more jazz elements, and I liked it because it was more, or rather, less restrained. Lemonade by Beyonce. I went from really liking her stuff to loving this album. I thought it was daring, I thought it made extremely on-point political statements and social commentary. I love the collaborators she had in there, like Jack White, and the visual album that went with it that she aired on HBO was incredible. So I would definitely say watch Lemonade. Don't just listen to Lemonade, watch Lemonade, because it tells a lot, and it's not just the story of her and her husband as many would have you believe. It's very much about the role of black women in America. The cinematography is just incredible. So as a filmmaker too, not just as a fan of music, I would definitely recommend it. Number 3, Spirit Phone by Lemon Demon. It's kind of an odd one to have up this high, but I really love Neil C.C. Urega, the guy who is basically what we know as Lemon Demon. He is responsible for so many bits of internet culture, from the Ultimate Showdown of Ultimate Destiny to the Potter Puppet Pals to his Mouth Silence albums, which are hilarious. And this album, his first as Lemon Demon in a long time, is really, really worth the wait. I just really love how he takes all these old styles, very 80s kind of synthy kind of stuff. Oh, it's just so catchy. There's some of the catchiest things I've ever heard. A Moon-Shaped Pool by Radiohead. I'm also a huge fan of Radiohead. I pretty much love almost everything they do too. Wasn't super blown away by their last album, The King of Limbs, but this one, A Moon-Shaped Pool, is great. It has this almost Led Zeppelin sort of sound on it, with these soft acoustic guitars, and it has the classic Radiohead sort of electronic sort of sound. This music is so somber but so calming at the same time. It is a quiet album, and that's really interesting because I wouldn't have ever thought they would kind of go back to it, especially since they've been doing this more intense electronic sort of stuff. And at number 1, I have Black Star by David Bowie. And again, anybody who knows me will not be surprised because I love David Bowie, but this album is more special to me than that. Not just because it's a David Bowie album, and not just even because it's his last album, but because of what he did with it. As most people know, he didn't advertise the fact that he had cancer, and so it was a big shock when 2 days after, or 3 days after this album came out, he died. And especially for me, I went that weekend to a David Bowie birthday party at a record shop. And it was really cool because everyone was celebrating his music, his work, and everyone was really happy. They were checking out the new album. And then a couple days later, after all that fun and like the excitement about David Bowie, I thought we had to think about David Bowie in a sad light because he was gone. It was such a shock when I got that text from my brother saying that he was gone, because it suddenly made everything in the album be clear, at least clearer. It's about as clear as a David Bowie record can get. You know, I went from seeing this album saying like, wow, he's experimenting with these new sounds, it's exciting, it's different, it's calling back to his past while still looking forward. But it wasn't until he passed that I go like, wow, this album is about dying. It's about people not knowing that he's dying. It's about what that process is like. It's about that last gasp of creativity before you die. And listening to it in that light was so chilling. It was, you know, hearing the words of this dead man talking about being dead was an experience I hadn't ever really had while listening to music before. And I think there's certain artists who've been able to do stuff like that, like say Johnny Cash with one of his final songs with being cover of Hurt. which is really powerful. I hadn't heard a whole album about that, and the album's not just about that, and exactly, like, there's still some creative character pieces and witty lines and space imagery and stuff, but when the way he worked this out, it was weird. It felt like a performance piece. It felt like he turned his death into a performance art. Releasing an album on his birthday, releasing a final music video filled with death symbolism that somehow didn't get until after he died, and then a couple days later, dying. If you're dying, yeah, I get to spend time with his family and stuff like that, but he also made this last present for the people who cared about his work and who were touched by his creativity, as I was. Alright, well, I've talked on long enough and I need to work on some more exam stuff, but I appreciate anybody who made it to the end of this video. We have these new YouTube buttons things. Alright, see you guys soon.